For years, I thought living in a state of constant overwhelm was just part of my life as a neuroscience professor with ADHD, until burnout at 40 had me struggling to do even basic tasks at work and feeling really hopeless about the future. Looking back, it nearly wrecked my entire life. But just 2 years later, I have not only moved past the burnout, I'm actually excited to see what the future has in store, all thanks to a few simple, straightforward changes. So in this video, I'll show you the 5 key lessons I learned that pulled me out of that meltdown and how you can use them to escape your ADHD overwhelm too. When I was deep in burnout, every day felt like a repeat of the last one. I was always behind, I was always exhausted, and I never had a moment to just freaking breathe. I dreaded the idea that nothing would ever change, and that is when I asked myself, would I be okay if things stayed like this in 6 months, 1 year, or 3 years? And the answer was absolutely not. Now, visualizing a future that felt just as crappy as my present, day after day after day, snapped something into focus for me. I realized I am the only person who can decide what I do next. And change won't be easy, but if I don't do anything different, nothing is gonna change. No one else can do it for me. Now, whenever I feel stuck, I ask, what is the one thing I can control right now to move me in the direction that I want? So try this next time you feel trapped. And if you want more help, check out my free ADHD Clarity Compass that's linked below. Now, once I started making these small changes, that's when I realized something even more fundamental, which brings us to lesson number 2. I used to give my time away to anyone who asked until the burnout of cramming so much into every single day of my life finally left me paralyzed, and even things I used to enjoy started to feel really hard. There were never enough hours in the day for work, let alone self-care or rest. And as a person who had always been a perfectionist and a, high achiever, this was alarming and scary. So one day I started blocking off time in my calendar for myself. No meetings, no exceptions. And if anyone wanted a meeting and there was no slot, they had to wait, and I actually stuck to this. Now, suddenly, I had more time for what mattered to me, and I realized I'd been handing control of my time over to everyone else at work and at home. Thanks, kids. But when I put up these very simple boundaries, everything changed. No exaggeration. Here's what I learned. I learned that my time is precious, and so is yours, because it's the one thing that you can never get more of. And also, people, turns out, are generally fine when you give them whatever your chosen availability is. No explanation needed. If you aren't available, they can wait or find somebody else 99% of the time. At home now, I can take the time to exercise or recharge because I've blocked it off in my schedule. And I remind myself when I feel guilty that I want my kids to be able to do this for themselves too, and they're watching what I do. Listen, I know saying no can be uncomfortable at first, especially if you are a people-pleasing woman with ADHD. I'm a recovering people pleaser, but I promise you this temporary discomfort is the gateway to a better life. Saying no is a muscle, so put in the reps and I promise it gets easier. If you need help with how to say no, you can use something like ChatGPT. It'll help you find the words and it's pretty good. Because with more free time and more energy, I finally got to start moving toward a life I wanted. And that brings us to lesson number 3. Before my ADHD diagnosis, I lived in a state of constant overwhelm. Always busy, always overcommitting, always thinking I could do more than humanly possible. Sound familiar? Then, after I was diagnosed, I started medication and, plot twist, this actually made things worse. Suddenly, I was more efficient and effective, so I filled every single spare minute with even more responsibilities, and I just burned out even faster and more completely. And that's when I realized I needed to take a hard look at what and who I was saying yes to. Were these things and these people really serving my goals and my values and my needs? It turns out most of what was stopping me from setting limits were just beliefs about what I should do as a professor or a mom or a successful person. And none of these were actual rules. They were just stories I'd been telling myself about how I was supposed to be acting. And here's what changed everything. I realized there are no rules. Sure, there are laws and real obligations, but when it comes to how you design your life, you get to decide. So next time you catch yourself thinking, I should just be able to, I want you to pause and I want you to ask, who says I should? What if I tried something different? Try removing the limits and see what new solutions you can come up with. No one's going to hold you to them. And when you feel resistance about trying something, I want you to check if it's a real barrier or just an old belief. Because if you can start from the there are no rules place, you're going to discover options that actually work for your brain. Just please don't expect perfection, expect progress, okay? And that brings us to lesson 4. I used to beat myself up whenever I struggled to stay consistent, okay? If I slipped up, it was like shame for days. Sound familiar? Now, eventually, I burned out so badly, I had no choice but to start experimenting with different changes in my life in order to make my life better. Everything changed when I stopped seeing things as a success versus a failure and started seeing them as success versus learning. Like Marie Forleo says, everything is figure-outable, just maybe not on the first try. And that's okay, by the way. Like, obstacles are totally normal and totally human to encounter when you're making a change. They're the price of admission for the future that you actually want. So now my mantra is curiosity over criticism. Instead of wasting my energy on shame, now I ask myself, so what can I try next? What didn't work? And this shift to getting curious about what's in my way and how could I get myself around it has helped me feel so much better about myself. I've also got more energy now because I'm not using it on shame, and I can achieve more in less time because now failure isn't even a thing. I just learn. And that brings me to the most important lesson of all, which is lesson number 5. And it is literally why I do what I do for ADHD women. There was a time when life felt so busy and so heavy, I just assumed this is it. Life is just supposed to always feel like a struggle. But then I gave myself permission to try structuring my days in a way that actually felt good for me. And I had never even considered doing that before, which is wild. And once I started asking, what do I want my life to actually feel like? And I started experimenting with my schedule, literally everything changed. I escaped burnout and overwhelm. Suddenly I could be present with the people I love. I could enjoy real leisure time, like guilt-free. What? I finally understood that rest and recovery matter more than endlessly just grinding. And so here's the lesson. Grinding is not what life is for. Life absolutely does not have to suck. It does not have to feel hard all the time. Like, you're not supposed to be drowning. You're supposed to like your life. So build your schedule and make your decisions based on what you actually want and need and where you want to go. And that ADHD Clarity Compass linked in the description can help you get started. And now that you are ready to get clear on what that life you love actually looks like, watch this video next where I walk you through getting clarity using that ADHD Clarity Compass step by step. You got this.